Earlier this morning, I finished laying all the foam road bed. The next task is to start track laying. I have all the turnouts lined up. It's a mixture of number 5s and 6s, including 2 custom curved turnouts. I'm going to start on the narrow gauge. I can't do the standard gauge today because I'm still waiting on the rail joiners, but I have rail joiners for the narrow gauge, and the micro-engineering track has been here for a while now. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute the turnouts, put them all approximately where they go, just to make sure I've got everything and that I don't make any mistakes. All the turnouts are now placed approximately where they've got to go. The obvious place to start is over here, where I've got 5 turnouts very close together, mostly overlapped. Well, they're all overlapping with at least one other, although there is a bit of a gap here. So I think I'm going to start with this crossover and then this plain turnout at this end, and then I'll move over to this curved crossover. Well, I have just cut those first 3 turnouts to fit, and already I've run into a problem. I've just remembered that I forgot to order wire. And since I need to get the feeders soldered to the bottoms of the rails, I'm not going to be able to get any turnouts installed today. What I can do is get everything prepped, get all the holes drilled and all the little pieces cut. Or at least I can get a lot of that done. But I'm going to go inside now and order the wire. Fortunately, the supplier I ordered from always gets it shipped the same day, and it only takes a couple of days to get here. So I will have it by the weekend. Well, my wire arrived over the weekend, so I can now get on with track laying. First thing I did this morning was modify the alignment into the staging yard because I wasn't altogether happy with it. This turnout was about 6 inches further around the bend, but I realized I was able to move it closer to the one next to it, and that lengthens 2 of the 3 tracks by about 1 car length. I think that's always worth doing where there's space for it. I've also drilled the holes in the throw bars of these first 4 turnouts, and I've cut away the head blocks. Here I've got them loosely positioned with the head blocks slid closer to the throw bar. Compare it with the unmodified turnout behind it, and you can see that there's a lot smaller gap, so I will be able to ballast it neatly. These first 2 turnouts have the wires soldered on the bottom, so they are now ready to install. But before I do that, I'm going to get the next 2 ready as well. That way I can adjust all 4 together and get all the kinks out. Well, it seems to have taken quite a long time to actually get some visible progress, but I now have the first 4 turnouts installed. It will go a lot quicker from now on. Next thing I'm going to do is install all the plain track in the staging yard, and those have different color feeders because they all need to be isolatable. Well, that is most of the staging yard done. I'm going to go in now, get some lunch, and I will come back out and continue this afternoon. Well, that is the rest of the staging yard finished. I haven't done this piece of track bypassing it yet because I need to work on that from the other end, work my way back towards this gap, because there will need to be a section joint in the middle of that somewhere. I've still got a few missing ties, which I figure I may as well install now, and then I'm going to move over to the main yard area and start working on that. Well, in addition to the staging yard, I now have most of the larger town done. I've got all of the front 2 tracks, the crossover at the end, the last turnout, and then most of this along there is prepped with the feeders, but I haven't glued it down yet. I'm going to leave that till tomorrow, and then I'll be able to recycle the weights and get all that installed. First thing I did this morning was to finish installing the rest of the track that I prepped yesterday. 2 turnouts and 2 pieces of plain track. In fact, it's the last 2 turnouts in this town. I've still got the 5 to do over the other side, and a fair bit of plain track. I expect I could probably finish that today. So I'm just going to get back to work and I'll talk to you again later. Well, this is all I'm going to do this morning. I have left the 2 engine house spurs. I'm going to leave those till the end because I've got to get the engine house out and install the track in that too. I've gone around the end curve and I've gone most of the way through the town of Laconia. And I've just started my way up the grade to the mine. So I've done all but one of the narrow gauge turnouts and the majority of the track. I've got about 5 or 6 yards of track to go, and then I'll be onto the standard gauge. But that will all be a job for this afternoon. I'm going to go in now, get some food, and I will talk to you again later. That is the 3 spurs in Laconia laid. Didn't take very long at all. Next task is to get across the drop flap. So I'm going to have to work with that raised up. I think I'm going to work from the inside rather than the outside. So I'm going to make sure all my tools are within reach so I don't have to keep going in and out too frequently. Well, the first thing I had to do to install this turnout was move the joist because it was right where it couldn't be. It was easy enough. I just backed out the 2 screws at the top, tapped it with a hammer to break the glue joints at the bottom. At the moment it's just wedged in. I haven't reattached it yet. I will do that once the turnout is installed. At this end I've got copper ties glued to the roadbed so I can get all the rail ends soldered immovably, thinking that will improve rail alignment. The turnout and this short piece of track next to it have all the feeders already installed. So after the test fit is satisfactory, I'm going to take them out, glue them in place, and then I will work on filling in this last piece of track round to the back of where the soldering iron is. Well, that is as far as I can go for now in this area. I've got the missing piece installed. I cut a piece to go across where the bridge will be, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to attach to the bridge at this point. So I'm not going to glue it in place. At the moment it's just the right length and resting there. I can't even attach it at this end without attaching it permanently. I've got the other 2 copper ties in at this end. I haven't done any of the soldering yet. I'm going to wait until the glue is set up and then I'll come back and do it some other time. I've also reattached the joist that I had to move. That didn't take long, just 4 screws. It's not glued at all this time, it's just screwed at the bottom instead. And I had to toe screw it there because I couldn't get a screw in straight. I think now I may as well move over to the standard gauge and get that done. I've got to dig out the rail joiners that I bought, and I'm going to go slowly on this because I haven't used this manufacturer's products before. Well, I have now finished laying the standard gauge track. Of course there wasn't much of it. It actually went a lot more easily than I expected. I half expected to break the rail nippers trying to cut the code 125 rail, but there was no sign of them reaching their limit. I was also expecting to have to go and get a larger tip for my soldering iron, but the one I had worked quite well. The only difficulty I did have was curving the microengineering flex track. It's the pre-weathered track, which is notoriously difficult to bend, and I found that in the larger scale it was very hard indeed. But I eventually got it to work. I'm going to leave the bricks on for a while because the rail is quite rigid. I don't want to risk it springing up. So I guess I'm going to leave those overnight. It's almost the end of the day anyway, so it's a good time to go in. Well, yesterday I got the track laying just about done. I've got rid of all the weights this morning. The only thing I still have to do is finish the track across the drop gate. Still got to solder all these rail ends, and this piece that will eventually go across the bridge still needs a feeder. And then I've got to find out from the customer exactly how he wants the bridge to go. Well, that is all the rail ends soldered at both ends of the drop flap. And I knew there was something else that I didn't mention this morning. the engine house tracks. I have not done those yet. So what I'm going to have to do is get the engine house out again, put that in position, and see how to work up to it. Took a bit longer to get the engine house tracks installed because the customer had built the engine house with the rails cut flush at the front of the foundation. So I had to take them out and put longer ones in. They just needed to be 1/4 of an inch longer. Actually, I think they're more like 3/8. I didn't measure it. Just long enough to put a rail joiner on the end. And the feeder wire will be attached to the bottom of the rail joiner. And then the rest of the spurs leading up to them will have regular feeders. I haven't glued everything in place yet. I've just cut the feeders. Next thing I need to do is take everything out, install those feeders, and then put them back in again. So let me get on with that, and I'll be right back. Well, that is the 2 spurs installed, glued, weighted down. I haven't put the feeders in for the engine house just yet. I want to wait for the glue to set up, so I'm going to go inside, get some lunch, and then by the time I come back out again, I'll be able to continue. I've now installed the feeders in the engine house. So with that, the track laying process is complete. None of it's wired up yet, although all the feeders are in. There are no bus wires yet. So the whole run is done from staging across the drop flap through the town of Laconia, around the end and into Copper Junction. I'm going to go in now, work out what the next step is, and I will talk to you again later.